Heather, where can I find a copy of the employee handbook? I thought it was on the intranet, but I looked and didn't see it.
Okay,
it is on the internet. I'll send it to you.
If it's on the intranet, I should be able to find it.
It's under departments and then administration and then HR, and then it says employee handbook.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
Chairman Hedlund.
Okay, my name is Chairman of the committee. I'm Vaunghn Hedlund, and this is the Dunn County Committee on Administration meeting today. I note that we have a quorum. We have Supervisor Tim Lenow, Board Chair Dave Bartlett, Supervisor Jim Tripp, Supervisor John Calabrese, Supervisor Sheila Story, our County Manager Paul Miller, and other staff members are present. I'd like to calling the roll, all members are present. Approval of the minutes from April 23rd of 2020 was our last meeting.
Mr. Tripp moves. Mr. Bartlett seconds. Want to call that out?
David Bartlett seconds. So Jim made a motion. Any further discussion on the minutes? If not, all would please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Considerations for actions to be taken by the Committee on Administration.
Do you want to mention staff reports?
Okay, yes, please. I'm sorry, I skipped number 4. Let's go back to number 4, staff reports. Mr. Miller.
Just very quickly, in the packet of materials provided to the committee, you've got monthly staff reports from the county manager, the chief financial officer, Keith Stry, our county treasurer, Doris Meyer, our county clerk, Julie Wathke, CJCC coordinator, Sarah Benedict, IT director, Eric Edgeberg, all available. If there's any questions, we'd be happy to field those at this time.
Okay, this is Vaughan again. Hearing no questions, do any of those staff members have anything they wish to add to their reports? Hearing none. Our next order of business is consideration for actions to be taken by the committee. 5A is authorizing a new benefits broker, and I'd like to have our director of HR address that, please.
Yes, when I started, it was reviewed, and it looks like the last time we went out and bid for the benefits broker was several years ago. So we made the determination that we wanted to go out to RFP. There were some additional features that we were hoping to get out of a benefit broker, so we put together an RFP that outlined all of the criteria that we were seeking in the proposals, and those are outlined in the information that was provided. We certainly want a broker that can help us to bid, recommend, and administer all of our benefit plans. We have wonderful benefits for our employees, and we need somebody that's going to be able to assist us with those. Identification of healthcare benefits that could be added, modified, or deleted, and the estimated financial impacts to that. I think people are aware that health care is expensive. It's especially expensive in the Chippewa Valley. We rank pretty high in costs for health care, and so we're really looking for a partner that can help us review all of the health care plans and the benefits that we are currently offering, ways to improve them to make sure that we're getting good value add for our staff. Which leads to the next bullet point, which is identification of new program alternatives and plan structure. So just making sure that we're looking at all options for our employees to receive quality health care at an affordable price. Assist with the development of insurance premium structures and ongoing management of wellness initiatives. Wellness is an area that really has been growing, and it's got some proven track records in other organizations that if you have a solid wellness program and wellness initiatives, that you can really see a benefit to your utilization and see some of that utilization going down as long as people are taking care of themselves. We have claim audit reviews that need to occur, developing, evaluating, and selecting various benefits, helping with RFPs. We did at 2017, there was a full bid for all Dunn County benefits. There are a couple of RFPs that for third-party administrators that we are considering based on services or lack thereof for this year. So we also need somebody that can keep us up to date on all of the legal components. ACA has changes regularly. There's different reporting requirements that come out, offering all of the knowledge and the ability to stay on top of that. And then a big one for us was the Chippewa Valley. I think I mentioned that we are really high cost in comparison even to most of the United States. And so the Chippewa Valley in and of itself, due to lack of competition or not enough competition, we just see high costs in healthcare. And so we really wanted somebody that is familiar with the Chippewa Valley, familiar with the struggles that we have with healthcare, and has shown the ability to work with local vendors and the local clinics. So in summary, we received bids for proposals from CBIZ, Hayes, M3, and Horton. So we elected to independently evaluate all of them. We held interviews with each of those firms. After completing that review, it became apparent to us that moving forward with M3 has several advantages. As I mentioned, the Chippewa Valley is kind of a challenge in and of itself. They are a local firm. They're very familiar with the Chippewa Valley, and they're very familiar with working with our vendors. They have strong relationships there. There would be an employee or an organizational group that we would be able to kind of work with and really get a networking group together and start taking on some of the challenges of the Chippewa Valley. They presented an all-encompassing package, so they included negotiation of renewal rates, methodology with carriers, employee education, eligibility, billing, claim, and service resolution. So that's going to free up some of our internal time in that they'll work with the vendors directly on some of those billing and service issues that we run into occasionally. They have experience in recommending cost strategies to keep and cost saving strategies, pharmacy coupons, near site clinics, things like that. They have experience in utilizing technology to gain efficiencies. We're currently still accepting paper forms for all of our open enrollment for every employee every year. New hires are still using paper forms, so we'll be able to implement some solid technologies utilizing them. Again, they're local. Our assigned broker is in Eau Claire, or would be in Eau Claire if we were approved with this. And their proposed cost came through was all inclusive for all of the services. Some of the other costs we had to estimate the types of services that we would need to add on to match the service level that we would be receiving from M3. So we are recommending awarding the RFP to M3 Insurance for benefit consulting services effective June 1st or shortly thereafter, and to begin utilizing their expertise as we roll into this next benefit period. Please tell me I was unmuted.
Can you repeat that?
Thank you, Heather. Any of the committee members have any questions for Heather at this time?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Tripp, go ahead, please.
The obvious difference is that M3 is about 50% more expensive than the CBIZ. And I understand that they may provide or will provide a better service package. Are there cost savings involved in going with M3 that might mitigate that increase in cost?
There was one potential cost savings that we had already cut out in presenting this cost. So this is the cost that M3 would have. They did give us a discount because we are partnering with their financial firm. So we did receive a discount for that. And then there was a piece of technology that we indicated we're not interested in to start with. And so that also reduced the cost. So we have brought that cost down to where they pretty solid at.
I will add that we're anticipating with the improved efficiencies that staff time can be devoted to other purposes. That's a little hard to quantify, but we think it has a genuine fiscal impact in terms of our efficiencies. That's what's an important consideration in staff selection of this vendor.
That was the next part of my question, and I anticipated that it would be difficult to quantify just what that staff time savings might be. Yeah, thank you.
Any other supervisors wish to comment or question?
I have my hand up. Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Sheila.
I was just wondering, it sounds like a really good plan, but was there something that you would have liked to have had in this plan that isn't in the plan?
The only piece that that we excluded was that technology piece. So they actually hit on everything. I have Patty Isaacson on here. I'm just going to look for a nod from her, but everything that we included in the RFP and then some. So they really did provide the full all-encompassing proposal when they came forward. There were pieces missing from the other vendors. And so, like I said, they came forward with actually above and beyond what we were looking for.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Heather, this is Vaughan. Wondering if you anticipate a pretty good savings in terms of the employee time in getting signed on and, for their benefits. Sounds like they had a much more fluid system than what we've been using.
Yes, so we anticipate once we get everything set up, everything requires setup, that employees will, both at the new hire, any life event, or during open enrollment, they'll go through an electronic process. And so then it'll be kind of a click of a button rather than the paper process, which is a single form for every benefit at open enrollment time. And then on the back end, from a staff standpoint, it's dual entry because we have to enter into the vendor systems, the election, plus our SAP system. And so by setting up the electronic process, that'll streamline for HR in that it'll go right to the vendors into their system once the employees make the election. And so we'll see savings on that end too. We will likely still have to enter into SAP. That's a discussion for another day.
Mr. Chair, this is Tripp.
Jim Tripp, Supervisor Tripp, please go ahead.
Thank you. What's the length of the contract? It's probably in there someplace, but I'm not seeing it.
Oh, Patty, can you hold up fingers? I think it was 3 years. That's what's in my head too. So 3 years.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Chair?
Mr. Bartlett, our county board manager, go ahead.
Yes. You mentioned the technology part that you decided you didn't want at this time. But if we decide we want it, what's the expense down the road? And do you anticipate that you would want it at some point down the road?
At this time, it's $6,000 for that piece of technology. It is data analytics. And so we will get data analytics. It's just going to be less streamlined. And at this point, we still need to build the analytics that we're seeking. And so I'm comfortable with not having those analytics now. As we progress, as we start putting in wellness programs and things like that, we may decide that we want to know more. And as we want to get more granular with data, it is something that we as an organization may want to consider. But I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we're prepared to quite get there. I think we have to build up to that.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions, I would appreciate a motion at this point so we can go forward.
Mr. Chair, one more question.
Go ahead, Ms.
Just wondering, is there an out clause or a grace period for this?
I don't have I will be honest, I don't have the contract right in front of me. With this particular organization, if we were not getting the services that they promised, then yes, we would be able to get out of the contract. That is one thing when we checked references that everybody was, we didn't find an organization that was dissatisfied with their services, but if we were dissatisfied, we would be able to get out.
What is that period of time? Do you know? Is it a month, 6 months, or when would you not be able to opt out of it anymore?
Patty, do you have that in front of you? I don't have that in front of me. I apologize. I can look that up and send that out. Really, I would expect that if we signed a contract, it would state that they have to adhere to all provisions, and at any point in time with a 30 to 60 day notice, that we would be able to get out of that if they were not satisfying it.
So that would be something you would be looking for before you sign.
Absolutely.
That's a
Thank you.
standard part of contracts for vendors for non-performance, that with notification in a period of time, anywhere from 60 to 120 days notification, we can opt out for due cause.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are we ready to make a motion on this? Anyone care to do that?
Supervisor Tripp.
Supervisor Tripp moves. Is there a second?
A second.
Supervisor Calabrese.
Supervisor Calabrese seconds. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of moving forward with the proposed contract? And again, Heather Murray, our director, has informed us that, you know, the contract will be what we want, or we won't move forward with it. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion passes. Thank all of you. 5B on our agenda is an amendment to the employee handbook regarding safety and clothing allowance policy. Heather Murray, our director of HR, would you like to address that?
Sure. Highway Commissioner Swirsky contacted me, and he has been budgeting for a tool allowance each year for his mechanics and welders, but the handbook was never updated, so we haven't been making the payment. And so we went through and looked at other organizations and kind of what that language looks like. On a go-forward basis, starting in 2021, we're recommending that they have to provide a receipt for the tools. But given that they probably aren't going to be able to produce a receipt going back to 2017, he's requested that we provide the retroactive payments. And then again, beginning in 2021, we will require the receipts in order to make that payment. With that, it's no longer just safety and clothing. So we are suggesting that we amend the title of the policy to equipment, uniforms, tools, and safety, and that should cover the different provisions that might fall within that policy. Again, this will allow for mechanics and welders to be reimbursed to a maximum of $500 per calendar year, provided a sales receipt. We are looking for approval for the retroactive payment as well. Highway Commissioner Swirsky costed it. He's anticipating all payments to equal $14,000 plus tax and benefits, estimated to be up to $3,000. He indicates he has the amount available in his 2020 budget. So again, for 2017 to 2020, we're seeking approval without a receipt to make that payment, and then effective January 1 of 2021, we proceed with the updated procedure.
And if I may add, the reason it's in front of the committee is because it is a change to benefits, and change in compensation and benefits is overseen by the Committee on Administration.
Any questions by any of the supervisors at this time?
Mr. Chair,
Supervisor Tripp, go ahead.
I'm a little bit concerned about paying out $14,000 for past purchases without sales receipts, or will there be any kind of documentation? How will Commissioner Swirsky know? How does he know that $14,000 will be adequate? What if there are requests for $20,000? Can we get a little bit more accountability here somewhere?
So it's $500 per calendar year if they were eligible, and so $14,000 is the maximum amount. That includes any employee that was a mechanic or a welder over that period of time, and provides them $500 of per year of reimbursement, or in this case, it's not really a reimbursement. It would just be an allocation.
So it's, in other words, it's not tied to the value of tools actually purchased. It's more in the way of money made available for the purpose of purchasing them in a maximum amount of $500. The calculation, therefore, is relatively simple. You multiply the number of mechanics welders by the number of years.
All right, I'm assured that it's not going to go over the 14,000, since obviously he has identified those people who are eligible. I find it a little bit unsettling, though, ever to offer an opportunity for people to simply say, yes, I'll take the maximum amount of benefit no matter, well.
And for what it's worth, staff shares your concern. Obviously, this is a matter of making up for something that should have been done, a benefit that the mechanics and welders should have been enjoying for the past 4 years, and we're attempting to do catch up. We could do, if we were very concerned, an inventory of the actual tools they have, that they own, and their relative value, looking back at past costs for the various tools and comparing the age that they have in their tool belt. But in this case, because it actually is the fault of the county administration, if you will, the administration of our budgets, they weren't receiving this. It's perceived more as a benefit overdue than it is as an accounting method. Did you in fact spend all $500 on tools? My also very general understanding is that some of the tools that they routinely use exceed well the $500 benefit.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Story, go ahead.
something to me, I guess, that comes to mind is, was this something that was promised to them by our department chair before he knew himself that it was going to be allowed? Or is this something that they read in the book and they brought it to his attention? How did they know about this?
This was brought to me by Highway Commissioner Swirsky, so I don't know if the employees know about it. I know other counties and other organizations for mechanics and welders do the reimbursements because the employees are expected to provide their own equipment. We don't provide tools to employees, they bring their own. So when we hire somebody, they bring their toolbox in. And so this is just to keep their tools, you know, if a tool breaks, they're able to keep them so that they can perform their job duties. So I can't answer the question whether or not the employees have been promised anything up to this point. Only that Highway Commissioner Swirsky brought this forward to me as a past issue. And produced some email correspondence with some individuals of this being approved in his budget over the years, but the payments not being made because it wasn't in the handbook.
Well, if the tool is stolen or lost, or as you say, broken, is it our insurance that would pay for them getting a new one?
No.
No, the tool belongs to them. It is their tool that they use on our behalf, which in part justifies the payment that we make.
Well, I guess I'm thinking a little bit along the lines of Supervisor Tripp. I'm wondering, is it really a bad thing to suggest that maybe they do provide an inventory of their tools? Wouldn't that be something that an individual would want to have, just to be sure that, you know, they keep track of their own tools?
If this is administered correctly going forward, they will provide receipts for tools that they purchase, utilizing some or all of the money. And like I say, my understanding is that they easily go through $500 worth of replacement tools every year. What we're talking about is whether or not we can or need to do it retroactively, and that might prove difficult.
I'm just wondering if we need to go back all the way to 2017. I don't know if there's an option to go back 1 year, 2 years, or something else rather than the whole 14,000, although he says he's got the 14,000 in his budget. But I guess I'm not quite sure what I feel about this at this point.
For the purposes of record keeping, we can certainly go to Highway Commissioner Swirsky and ask him to work with his mechanics and welders to generate what receipts they may still have, or at least a statement of what tools they bought during those times, the relative values. So at least we have something on the record for accounting purposes. We can certainly do that.
Chairman?
Board chairs, Mr. Bartlett, go ahead.
Having a little bit of experience in the tools, running a shop, toolboxes themselves could cost $4,000 to $6,000 or $8,000. It isn't uncommon for a mechanic that has a toolbox full of tools to have in excess of $20,000 in the toolbox and tools. I've walked through the shop. The majority of those guys do have toolboxes that are full of tools. So I don't think there's any question that they have that amount of tools in their toolbox. When you're talking about how far many years going back, the highway commissioner's been putting this in his budget for a number of years, and that's why the money is there, because the mechanics and welders do supply their own tools. And if you remember a few years back, we made the mechanics and welders, we brought the truck drivers up to their level of pay. And so if you're a truck driver, you get paid the same amount as a mechanic or welder, and you do not have to have tools. You do not have to go out in the cold to work on a truck or a piece of equipment. I think there's ample reasons why the commissioner would like to do this, and it has a lot to do with the morale of his shop. And it's something that he's been, like I say, I know he's been working towards this since he came. I know he's talked to Mr. Miller about it at least a couple of years ago, if not more. And I've been surprised it hasn't gone through. And I think it's time that we do it.
Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Lino, go ahead.
Yes, one of the things that I have done in the many jobs that I have had was being a mechanic, and $500 a year on broken tools is it's, I'd say, pretty much right on par with what you would normally lose, break, snap, whatever it might be in those situations during the course of a year. And I think it's a very, very fair dollar amount. And if we're willing to go back to right or wrong from that has not been corrected, I think I'd like to encourage the committee to move forward on this.
Thank you, Tim. Anyone else have any comments?
Just thank you, supervisors, for your feedback and input. It makes a difference.
And don't get me wrong, I've got nothing against this proposal. The only thing that troubles me is the accountability part. And partly that's because there is the potential for setting a little bit of a precedent. Now, I'm not really terribly concerned about that either. It's just that, and frankly, I recognize the fact that having Commissioner Swirsky go back and try to get receipts and account for this is probably more trouble and time than it's worth. But I hope we don't have to do this anymore.
Okay, Mr. Lino, would you like to make a motion on this behalf?
Yes, I'd like to make this amendment to the county handbook, I think, right? If I'm
Yes.
correct.
Correct.
And this would be changing the title of that to safety, clothing, equipment, and tools, and tools reimbursed to the tune of $500 going back to 2017.
I would second that, Mr. Chair.
Here we have a motion by Mr. Lino, seconded by Sheila Story. Any other discussion at this time?
Yes, just one thing. This will actually should result in a resolution to the county board, which we have time to do. The resolution doesn't have to be in front of this committee. If there's an affirmative vote on this action, we'll craft a resolution for county board action.
Is that okay with Sheila and Tim?
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that also.
Okay, let's take a vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion goes forward and a resolution will be drafted. Thank all of you. Okay, our next item of business is our audit of our vouchers. Are there any questions pertaining to the vouchers at this time?
I have two, just wondering what they are. On the first page, just close to the top, it's governmentjobs.com. It's software in the human resources. So Heather could probably, I guess I'm wondering if that's something that has come about because of the COVID-19 or if it's just something that normally comes around for that software.
Governmentjobs.com.
Yeah, that's what it says. It's
$32,000
yeah,
line item,
it's
governmentjobs.com Inc.
yeah, software implement.
I'm kind of wondering if it went to the wrong account. Keith, doesn't that sound like the HR director recruitment amount?
32,000 seems a bit high for that because the total contract was less than that. We can take a look at that. I'm wondering if that's NeoGov, the software implementation of that. I don't remember the total amount on that. Chairman Bartlett, we can research that and get an answer back to the committee.
Okay, and then my other question was under the patrol, and let's see, it's 52,1,075, and it's maintenance contract 13,600 for enforcement video. And I'm wondering if that has to do with body cams or what that is.
We will also track that one down for you, Chairman Bartlett, and get that answer for you.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman Bartlett, which item was that again? I just want to make sure I get the right thing.
It's in the amount of $13,608.75, a maintenance contract for enforcement video LLC. The item is 521075.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions pertaining to the vouchers as they have at this point? Did everyone get their questions answered? Hearing no other questions, could I have a motion to approve the vouchers as presented with the information coming forward from that Mr. Bartlett has requested?
So move, Mr. Chairman, to pay the vouchers.
Okay, I have Mr. Calabrese with the motion and a second by you, Tim. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Any further discussion at this time? Hearing none. All in favor of the vouchers as presented with the questions being answered later, say aye.
Aye.
Right.
Aye. Any opposed at this time? Hearing none. Vouchers are approved. Next item on our agenda is consideration for reports, resolution, ordinances of the county board from the committee. We have none at this time.
Other than, of course, the one we just approved.
Sorry about that, Mr. Miller. I forgot about that already. Any announcements by any of the committee members? Okay, hearing none. Our next meeting for this committee will be June 25th, 2020 at 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon. At this point, I declare our meeting adjourned. Thank you all for being present. I appreciate it.
Goodbye,
Thank you.
all.
Have a good day, everybody.